All right, so thanks for everybody that's here right now. Still expecting a few more people to drop in shortly. I'll keep an eye on that list. Tonight we got Chattanooga Whiskey with us. We've hooked up with them before, but they are so good, and their product has now started to spread out so much that they are hard to get. And luckily, Tim was able to come and join us tonight. So I'll turn the floor over to Tim. If you guys got any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. You know, and that way I'll mediate that and like interrupt when I have to. And at the end we'll chat some, you know, we'll ask some questions and, you know, kind of go that route. So I will turn the floor over to you, sir.
Thanks, Troy. I'm going to share my screen, and I want to leave as much time for just hanging out and you guys asking questions, Q&A as possible. So I will show you, basically cover the nuts and bolts of who Chattanooga whiskey is, why we're different, what we make, and then we'll highlight the products that you guys have and hang out and chat. So by the way, I am Tim Pearson is my name. I'm CEO founder of Chattanooga Whiskey, and that's about all there is to know about me, I guess. There's more if you want to know it, but you probably don't. All right, so Troy, can you see that screen? You guys all good?
Yep, I can see it.
All right, cool. All right, so let's go through this thing. So it was the history of whiskey in Chattanooga that inspired me and my co-founder to bring whiskey back to Chattanooga for the first time in 100 years. Pre-Prohibition, Chattanooga was one of the larger distilling towns in North America from 1866 to 1915. And then, so we were legally the first to distill and build the first distillery in Chattanooga in 2015. So exactly 100 years. But we started the company in 2011. And that's what it's where we kind of will start here in the timeline. So founded the company, it was illegal to distill, so we sourced from MGP. We could have sourced from anywhere, but we chose MGP because we enjoyed that that product the most at the time. And so we launched our product, Chattanooga Whiskey 1816 Reserve, Chattanooga Whiskey 1816 Cask, and began to campaign at the same time to change the laws. So we created a campaign called the Vote Whiskey campaign. It took nearly 2 years to overturn those laws, but we were successful. And in overturning that, we opened up distillation for the majority of the state of Tennessee. And there's 95 counties in Tennessee. And now there's over 50 distillery licenses in Tennessee. So that was a pretty big deal to our state's distillery and ag culture and economy. So pretty cool. It took us 2 more years to build the first distillery in Chattanooga in 100 years. That is the experimental distillery. And then 2 years after that, we built the Riverfront Distillery, which is our headquarters and our main production facility. And then 2 years after that, we launched Tennessee High Malt 91-111, 100% made here in Chattanooga, which is what you guys have in your glass tonight. Let's see here. All right. So the Riverfront Distillery is, like I said, that is our headquarters. That is where we scale up our favorite recipes from the experimental distillery. And notably, the 91 recipe, which became our flagship and came from the 91st barrel produced at the experimental distillery. So from 2015 to 2017, we put away over 100 different barrels, 100 different recipes that were all high malt. And where high malt came from was our head distiller and chief product officer, Grant McCracken. Grant was a prominent brewer and was a head brewer and head of research and development for arguably the largest and largest brewery, one of the largest breweries in the country or the world. And so his background being specialty malts, he really wanted to introduce that into bourbon to the degree that no one ever has before. And so we coined and trademarked our own unique style of bourbon whiskey called Tennessee High Malt, because it truly from 2015 to 2017 and ever since then, so really ever since 2015, so now 7 years, all of our recipes are greater than 25% in specialty malts, and we've utilized hundreds of different specialty malts and worked with dozens of different maltsters. And so I think when it comes to exploring specialty malts along with many other facets of distilling, Tennessee High Malt is truly, I would say a pioneer for malt in American whiskey and malt in specifically straight bourbon whiskey. So we've done over 400 experiments at the experimental distillery. It is our main tourist attraction as well, where we see tens of thousands of visitors a year from all over the country. And then again, we continue to scale up our favorite recipes at the Riverfront Distillery. So let's talk about what Tennessee High Malt is. So you'll see here that we've got a variety in this diagram. It is complex, it is rich in flavor, and that is our goal. So 91 111 and 99 Rye, beginning with a 4-grain mash bill, 3 unique specialty malts, long cold fermentations, different toast and char barrels. And then in 91, we finished it in a Solera barrel. With 111, it's unfiltered. And with 99 Rye, it's also unfiltered. So 4-grain mash bill for 91 and 111 is non-GMO yellow corn, malted rye, caramel malted barley, and honey malted barley. So these specialty malts are going to drive very, very deep, dark, rich flavors because they've been steeped in water. There's a germination process that takes place, and then kilned. And in that kilning process, based on time and temperature, you can take any cereal grain and malt it, and you're going to bring the richest of flavors out of that cereal grain through this process. It is what makes great beer. It has traditionally not been utilized in bourbon, and Chattanooga whiskey is changing that. So we do long cold fermentations because short hot fermentations, you produce more product. You get your ABV up faster to be able to distill it, but you also get a lot of yeast esterification out of that because the yeast, as it heats up, it works harder and faster, and so you begin to mask the flavors that are coming from the grain. And because we utilize so many specialty malts, we don't want to mask those flavors. We want it to be rich in specialty malt, so we go longer and colder for that reason. Different toast and charred barrels, so 53-gallon barrels, new American white oak, because we are making straight bourbon whiskey. But you can finish barrels in a variety of ways, and toasting hasn't really become popular or marketed until recently, but really dating back to 2015, when we started with our experimental distillery, we began exploring these different toasts and chars, and we worked with our cooperage which is independent stave, to customize our toasts and chars because they drive significantly different flavor profiles. So a 4-char, which is traditional, a heavy char, is going to bring out your kind of classic vanilla oak flavors that are more representative of a traditional bourbon, but your toasted barrels are going to bring out much more confectionery notes that are going to be quite a bit sweeter and richer because you're caramelizing the wood sugars deep inside the staves. And that flavor profile, putting them together is really, it's doing a variety of different toasts and chars and then blending them together. And then of course, pairing that with our, roasted, toasted specialty malts, it just brings a much more confectionery flavor profile out, which is why Chattanooga whiskey is richer and more complex. One of the reasons. With 91, we finished it in this 4,000-gallon white oak Solera barrel. which is again white oak, so same property. It is charred on the inside with a light char. Holds approximately 100 barrels of 91. 50% of those barrels are 4 char with no toast. The other 50% are a 3 char with our custom 91 toast, which is a very long toast. So commingling, creating a very consistent product from batch to batch, but also a much more complex product because you are commingling those different toasts and chars together, and different age products as well. So 91 is our flagship. It is a 91 proof straight bourbon whiskey. It is, again, our style of straight bourbon whiskey called Tennessee High Malt. It's 4 grains, 3 malts, long cold fermentation, 4 char, 3 char with a toast, and in Solera barrel finished. And of course it is small batch because each batch is, approximately, 8 to 10 barrels. So, this product retails for, your in your low 30s, low to mid 30s price point, which is just an incredible value for the amount of craft that goes into this product. Of course, 91 proof, if I didn't already mention that. 111. So you guys have this in your glass, I believe. So if you'd like, go ahead and pour this up. But 111 is the big brother to 91 because it is the same recipe as 91. Again, it is that non-GMO yellow corn, malted rye, caramel malted barley, and honey malted barley. So all those specialty malts, including the rye, is a deeper, darker, richer rye. So you're taking these almost like, if you think about it like a s'more, if 91 is the outside of the s'more, 111 is the center of the s'more. And those chocolatey flavors are going to come out. You're still going to get some of those like honeyed graham cracker notes in it as well. And it's almost like a rich dark chocolate that you get out of it, as well as your classic bourbon caramel notes as well. It is unfiltered, so we do allow char sediment to pass through into each bottle, which is going to enhance the texture, enhance the flavor profile, and make it much more barrel forward. And it just really coats your palate. If 91 is a medium body, this is very full bodied, so it really coats your palate, I think, in an amazing way. And definitely a kind of a cult following of 111 drinkers. And 91 is going to be the everyday approachable. 111 is going to be the enthusiast, sipper. But it is a straight bourbon whiskey. It is a great representation of everything we put into Tennessee High Malt. And of course, a 50-50 blend of 4 chars and 3 chars of the toast as well, but it does not go through the Solera barrel process. All right, so 99 Rye, which I believe you guys might have as well. So 99 Rye is 99 proof. It is aged between 3 and 4 years. It is also 4 grains. It has 3 specialty malted ryes, including chocolate malted rye in it. So it is not your traditional rye. It's so rich. This rye is, a lot of ryes are known for being spicy. This rye is so rich that it drinks closer to a bourbon than it does a rye. And that's because 65% of the mash bill is comprised of 3 different specialty malted ryes, and 35% is non-GMO yellow corn. And so did win Whiskey Advocate Top 20, which was an awesome thing in 2020. Kind of a nice little surprise in the midst of COVID. But again, 4 grains, 3 specialty malted ryes, greater than 3 years. Flavor profile: fruitcake, cola spice, sage, toasted rye, full-bodied rye, being 99 proof, and priced at a low $40 price point, which I think is a steal, considering again how much craft goes into this product. Of course, small batch. Now you guys have BIB, I believe, as well. Let's talk about now with bottled and bond, you're to kind of back up, right? You're to cover what is so craft about Chattanooga whiskey, and that is Tennessee high malt. When you think about 91-111, it's a straight bourbon whiskey, but it's not your typical straight bourbon whiskey. It's Tennessee high malt. And everything that we do falls under Tennessee high malt, but the things that I just mentioned, we go above and beyond on. With 99 rye, it's not a straight rye. It's actually a malted rye. With BIB, it's not one recipe that's 4 years old. It is actually 4 different recipes blended together that are 4 years old, all distilled in a single distilling season at our distillery. So there's a lot going on here, and our BIB, we also do different vintages. We'll do a spring vintage each year, and we will do a fall vintage each year, and those recipes will evolve and change from vintage to vintage and from year to year. And so we might take one recipe out and substitute it with another recipe. And so there's just really there's not a bottled and bond on the market that is like Chattanooga whiskey bottled and bond. And especially with blending being so popular, I think Chattanooga whiskey utilizes blending as well as anyone does, maybe better. And so with our 2017 fall mash bill, so these mash bills that you see, this nomenclature, stop, sorry, it's my dog. Batch, so you see B004, B005, SB055, SB091. So these are actually experimental nomenclatures, and so we've scaled them. So these are all made. We've scaled them from experimental to riverfront, and so batch 4 was a peated recipe that we did, that we scaled up. Batch 5 was a wheated recipe that we did, that we scaled up. 55 was a roasted recipe, meaning it had a variety of drum roasted malts in it. So very dark, chocolatey, rich flavor profile. And then, of course, there's 91, which is the flagship recipe. So we blended all 4 of these together to make the 2017 fall mash bill. So pretty uniquely complex. And you can even see the percentages here. So of that, if you're asking like, wow, there's a peated recipe in this, well, you're not going to get a ton of peat out of it because it is a bourbon, but yes, it does utilize peated malt in that. And you can see here that it was only 18% of that recipe was that peated recipe. And so adds to the complexity, maybe a hint of smoke, but definitely not like you're drinking an Islay Scotch, which we have done a Scotch cast before, finished in Islay Scotch barrels. So that is like you're drinking a Scotch. So, and of course, with all this bottled and bond being a $49.99, well, now it's actually 52, but regardless, approximately $50 price point item on the shelf. Again, with the amount of craft that goes into it, it's a pretty incredible value. So we have a barrel finishing series where we've done a Scotch cask with Kildalton Islay barrels, and then we've done a tawny port. We've got our next release is actually a Silver Oak cab barrels. And these aren't just 91 recipes going into these barrels. These are actually a variety of different recipes. We do a lot of blending, our different experimental recipes scaled up to riverfront for all of our barrel finishing series. So that is pretty much us in a nutshell. I would definitely encourage you to go to our website. There's a ton of product. There's a ton of information about all of our releases. We've done dozens and dozens of experimental releases. as well as riverfront releases, and you can read all about those releases on there. You can also read our all of our press on there as well. So at this point, I'm going to stop the screen share and open it up for hanging out and having a good time. You guys can ask me whatever you want.
Yeah, I'll kick it off. I've got a question.
Right.
So what got you into distilling in the first place if it wasn't really a thing in Tennessee beforehand?
Oh yeah. Well, it was really so co-founder and I started when we started in 2011. We were basically just building this brand, changing laws, and then we ended up splitting in 2014. But so he hasn't been in the business since then. But he and I, leading up to it, when we discovered the history, we were just shocked that it had not come back, and it being 2011, and we weren't like, he was drinking more whiskey than I was, but I wouldn't say we weren't whiskey connoisseurs, like we all are today. Obviously, 2011 was really at the beginning, maybe before, is really before the craft boom of distilling, but it was just enough to be like, I mean, Jack Daniel's is 80 miles down the road. How is distilling not happening in Tennessee right now? And then we discovered it was because it was illegal, and we wanted to fight those laws. We thought it was too cool of a story to not tell. So
Yeah, thanks.
yeah, of course.
Was Tawny Port a one-time release?
Yeah. So actually, all of our barrel finishes are a one-time release. I'm gonna turn this light on so you guys can see me better.
That's
I'm
a
still
bummer.
listening.
That's a bummer, man. That Tawny Port was fantastic.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, we oh yeah, my dog's attacking me. Yes. Jeez, get off me. Yeah, so the Tawny Port, man, was really cool. It was a blend of 6 different recipes, and the port barrels were super rich when we got them in. Definitely kind of a crowd favorite, but I do think that the silver oak cab finish that's coming up next is gonna wow some people.
So how has your like area where chat is available like spread out since the last time we talked? Like how many states are you in? Like
14 states, same. We haven't gone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
so we're staying in that just because we're actually maxed out, and we're selling everything we have. And so it's all contiguous to the Southeast. Ohio has been an awesome market. The whole Midwest has been great. We maybe will expand in the near future just because we have some capacity that is going to come available over the next couple of years. And so probably we'll expand more into the Midwest because they seem to love Chattanooga whiskey. And but yeah, 14 states, still rocking and rolling.
Well, we like it. What is 111 still the number one seller here in Ohio?
That's a good question. I know it was really close. I believe so. I think it was like a 60-40, like 111 to 91.
Do you have any barrels that you're holding on for aging?
So not really. I mean, our barrels it's all basically like based on our style. So we have products that are, upwards of like that we've distilled upwards of 6 years old. But it's just based on like barrel finishing series. They're usually older. Single barrels are older. Bottled and bond is going to be older, but we're not really holding on to anything to say like we want to do an 8-year release, just because we don't really major on age to the same degree that other a lot of other distilleries do. A big part of that is just because of, in the process, how much we put into every step, everything from where we source our grains, how we ferment them, to how we distill them, to what proof we distill it at, to what proof we barrel it at, to how we barrel them. In Tennessee, Chattanooga, Tennessee is Southeast Tennessee, and we have probably a 25 to 30% greater evaporation rate in Southeast Tennessee than Central Kentucky.
So I have a question about the whole Solero thing. So obviously it's a large vat that you're mixing things, but is there an accelerated aging or something that happens within that, or?
No, it's not. I don't think so. Well, it's not accelerated aging because it's a 4,000 gallon barrel. I think it would be accelerated aging if it was a smaller barrel than 53 gallons. But no, considering it's fully matured in a 53 gallon barrel, and when it graduates from that, it goes to a 4,000 gallon barrel. It's more about blending than it is in commingling, but it's like, commingling inside of a giant charred white oak barrel versus commingling inside of a steel vessel is going to impart more flavor. I mean, there is oxygen, there is breathability, there are, there are molecules that are moving around in there. So it's a traditional method that has been popular in other forms of wine and spirits outside of bourbon, to be able to, once you put a barrel in there, you cannot perfectly extract that barrel back out. There's always a piece of that barrel left behind, right? So that's the commingling effect. So you're just layering. It's kind of like a cast iron skillet, to be honest. Like you're just layering flavor on flavor on flavor.
Did you say the bottle and bond was discontinued?
No.
Or just that? No, just that 1 year. I thought you said something was discontinued.
I said Tawny Port wasn't going to be made again.
Okay.
But bottled and bond. Well, I mean, yeah, if in a way,
In a sense, because
in
it
a
comes
sense,
out in fall.
yes, if you don't get fall 2017, you'll never get that blend again.
Gotcha. And when is the blended, the one that you said was coming out that you thought might be interesting next to the tawny?
Oh, Cab, Silver Oak Cab. That comes out early next year.
Spring or?
I think it's gonna be winter. I think we're
Winter.
gonna make it. I think we're gonna make it in the winter.
Okay.
So
that Solero barrel is kind of like sour mash, right? Like just a little bit is left behind from every barrel that you dump into it.
yeah. It's well, I mean, yes and no. Sour mash is you're taking your spent grain and you're putting it back into your cook, and it's honestly it's a very small percentage of your cook overall. But with Solera barrel, it's a 4,000 gallon vessel. We're only bottling 10 barrels approximately, so you're only pulling that tank down by about 10%. So I mean, it's 100 barrels worth. So you pull it down 10 barrels, you're only pulling down 10% and refilling it. So I would say the nuance. Well, I guess yeah. I mean, it's not completely dissimilar, but of course you're dealing with barrels of different age. For example, like we put the actual barrel 91 from the experimental distillery into the Solera barrel. So you have an experimental barrel that is in there, and in theory that there's going to be some influence for a very long time to come by putting that barrel into the Solera barrel.
No, you said you guys do something with something new, something old, future, past, present.
Mhm.
So do you still have a stock of MGP, or are you just continuing to buy from them what their stock has?
So yeah, so that Founders is a blend of past, present, and future. The past is MGP, and the only place that MGP will ever live, the original MGP that we had, that recipe, the only place it'll ever live is in that so in the 1816 Founders barrel, which goes into which blends into the anniversary release of Founders each year.
Each year. And that's released when?
April. It's always
April.
released in April.
Okay.
Yep.
Birthday's April. Got it.
Birthday's April. Exactly.
Are you is there still some products that are not available in Ohio?
Yeah. I mean, I think BiB just got approved, didn't it? Either I think it did. John would have to answer that, but Rye, BiB, I know they're difficult to get in there.
Like we won't see Founders, right? Like that'll only be.
I actually think you will. I mean, last year Founders was only 1,500 cases. Wasn't a lot. I mean, for us, it's just not a lot of product. But next year Founders, I think, is going to be like, don't quote me on this, but maybe 2,500 cases. So I mean, with that additional 1,000 cases, my guess is Ohio's going to see some.
Because I got mine. I had to get mine down at the party source, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe. So yeah.
Yeah. No, that sounds right. I would hope. I'd hope that Ohio gets some Founders this coming year.
We like it. We like our whiskey.
I know you do. It's a great market.
So I know this comes up all the time, and I'm not asking because it's our group, and I think I understand how it works. But single barrel program, like how does that work for you guys now? According to like the way it's a little bit different than like other places, correct?
Yes, it is. This is a daily conversation. So because obviously single barrels are so hot. So we do not do private picks. We did once upon a time. We do not anymore. We have moved to a variety pack where they're all distillers picks, and in a case of whiskey of single barrels, there's 6 barrels. So some of them are the 91 recipe. One of them is usually the wheated recipe, one of them's a peated recipe, and one of them's a roasted recipe. Last year, or this past year, they were the recipes that actually made up bottled and bond. So we did single barrels with those, put them in a variety pack, and shipped them out. All straight bourbon whiskey, but just featuring different specialty malts. So, yep, we do it pretty differently.
So how's that been? I'm just wondering, like, how has that? I mean,
Yeah.
worked out? What's your feedback?
It sells out quick. So in that case, it's great. There's some accounts that really love it. And then their bigger accounts, they want to break there's a lot of accounts that want their single barrel, they're private picks, but they're not going to get them. And then there's some accounts that want to break up the different recipes. They want the wheated, they only want the wheated, or they only want the peated, or they only want the roasted, or they only want the 91. So there's some challenges to it, but it is very different than everybody else. And I think we'll continue to do it this way for a while. Maybe we'll go back to barrel picks at some point in time, but not for a minute, because we just don't have enough. I mean, if we ship out 40 private picks and we get, 200 requests, we have 160 very angry customers. So.
Yeah, I was about to, I mean, like I knew the answer already, but I was going to ask you to explain why that's the way you do it that way, rather than just saying, hey, because being at the volume you output, right? Like if you could only do 40 barrels and you had 200 people ask, you'd have, like you said, 160 pissed off customers.
Yeah. We dealt with that for a few years, and kind of collectively agreed that it wasn't worth just the head. And single barrels are tough. I mean, they're tough on suppliers. Now, some suppliers are set up for it, and that's all they want to do. But Chattanooga Whiskey, we put a lot into every label, and we put a lot into our single barrels. And that demand was just so draining, and people were still upset, couldn't make everybody happy. And so we just said, screw it. Like, we're going to create a single barrel program, and that is still different from everyone else. But they're not going to be private picks, and they're going to be a variety of different recipes.
Your rye is still phenomenal too. I mean, I'm glad that's spreading out. That was the first product you guys had that really latched onto. That tawny port was good too. I didn't know until you just, that's why I asked. I didn't know until you just said it, that it was that was like a one and done thing. I wish I would have kept that second bottle now.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually have the tawny, maybe tawny, some type of tawny. It won't be exactly like that, but maybe it comes back around. It was a very popular product. It was fun. It was a fun kickoff for our barrel finishing series. The Scotch cask has impressed as well, just because it is people can't believe how scotchy it actually is.
And that's not available anymore, is it?
Yeah, you can probably find it in maybe in some markets. There's probably some out there. There's definitely no tawny port to my knowledge, but Scotch cask, I think there's some like kind of stragglers out there.
Do you have any other really unique barrel finishes that you're coming up with?
Yeah, I mean, I am excited about this next one. So I do enjoy wine, but I'm not a big wine connoisseur. But for people that are wine connoisseurs, it seems like they all are very familiar with Silver Oak in California. And they're like the classic American cab, and very high end. And so we have finished, this next finishing is all Silver Oak, and it was a really long finishing too. So I think like 16, 18 months, something like that, so significant period of time in these barrels. So I'm pretty excited about it. There's not a lot of cab finishes out there, because cab, it's not necessarily it's not sweet like tawny. So, but I'm really excited about it. And then we've got a double barreled Scotch cask after that. That'll be fun, using Kildalton barrels. So always working on something, man. Always.
So those finished releases are also probably not going to be able to make it to Ohio, will they? Just because of how our system is, right?
I think the we got to get approved, which is a pain, but it also just depends on the size of the release. So if it's under 2,000 cases, probably won't make it to Ohio, but maybe. So that's, I don't know. You can lobby with John on that one.
There's a lot of things I wish got released in Ohio that don't.
Yeah. Yeah. But John, yeah, John, you know, I'm a big fan of with our, so we're all about growing deep into our markets, but with our limited time offerings, I like spreading those across our markets because there's just not a lot of it. And there's always connoisseurs like you guys that are looking for some cool special products. And we don't have to put all that much into Ohio. You know, we can put a couple hundred cases in Ohio and it'll go fast. So
I think a lot of it comes down to like all those special releases from like other distilleries and stuff like that. Like, you know,
Yeah.
there's no point of chasing it when there's good stuff like you guys that already exist. Like, you know what I mean? Like I still think back to the very first time that you know, I had your rye and it just it still blows my mind, you know, and it's so affordable and so available. So
it's awesome. Appreciate that.
do you so we just went and did a barrel pick at a distillery down in Bardstown, and they were doing experimental stuff with a Cabernet cask as well.
Oh, cool.
You guys might be ahead of the game. Like we walked right by them, and you know, we were the only one that day. It was during the Kentucky Bourbon Heritage Festival down in Bardstown.
Yeah.
And they had a few different, they had like a Zinfandel cask. They had all this wine stuff set up, and I'm kind of pushy. So I was like, can we take, he's like, no, we absolutely can't. But knowing what I saw there, then now what you have coming out, like that piques my interest a lot. So
That's interesting. Yeah.
but they're like, as far as I mean, like
I'll be in Bardstown next month. So I'm going to have to sniff around.
it has 4 numbers in their name. Well, I mean, the product does, not the.
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah, right. Yeah.
You can't go on tours there anymore. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. There's so many people that have moved over to Bardstown. It's crazy.
Yeah, when we drove out, it was you know, the Bourbon Heritage Festival, which used to be just like a, you know, you show up and just go. There was like a line of people at 11 o'clock going down all the way down to that circle, just waiting to get in early. And it is just, I mean, it's phenomenal for that town, but it's just, it's so big, man. It's not worth it. You know what I mean?
Ah. Oh.
So have you guys gotten your, I don't want to say foot traffic, but like for the distillery and stuff downtown, or not downtown, but you know, like, have you seen a noticeable increase in visitors and everything else with like the?
Yeah. So both of our distilleries are downtown. The experimental and the riverfront are both downtown. They're only a mile from each other. Tourism's been phenomenal, but part of it is the brand growing, and part of it is Chattanooga is just it's a growing town. You know, in Southeast Tennessee, people are moving here constantly from big markets all around. They want a mid-sized city and a you know, no state income tax state. And so it's especially during COVID, this town was a little more open than others, and tourism definitely reaped the benefits of that, including Chattanooga whiskey. So it's been good. Tourism's good, man.
So you said your distillery does like 3,000 barrels a year, right?
The riverfront distillery, yeah.
Yeah. Where's your rick house?
It's actually on site. It's on site.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, but it's filled. So we've got another one that we're beginning to fill. So the rick house situation is not, it's not like a it's not necessarily ideal, but it's pretty. I mean, we have 5,000 barrels on site that we keep, and then we've got a rick house that we can put another 5,000 barrels in. So it's not we're no Bardstown, but it is it's good for what we do.
Do you think you'll expand rick houses and storing off site?
Let me get back to you on that. I mean, 2023 is the year of discussing expansion.
Mhm.
You know, because we are growing like crazy, and we do have we have a lot of demand, and we're talking about. But we also have a lot of skill. I mean, like we have 14 distillers that are badass, and we can make a lot of really cool products. So where we take that exactly, I'm not sure. We're talking about that, but it's going to be within the same vein as how we've built our product now. So I don't know exactly what that looks like quite yet.
I guess another way of asking that same question is, how busy are you personally?
Not very busy. No, my daily challenge is pushing us. It's pushing. It's my daily challenge. It's pushing to not be the biggest, not be the fastest, but to be relevant. It's about relevance. So Tennessee High Malt is relevant, but most people still, even though we've been selling it for 3 years, that's not a lot of time. And there's not a lot of people that know what makes Tennessee High Malt special and how truly deeply craft it actually is, and how different Chattanooga whiskey really is in the grand scheme of bourbon, and what we invest into our products. And so it's about telling that story and basically just challenging our company to continue to drive that home. It's not about getting off that messaging. It's about staying on that messaging, but it's about improving that messaging and getting that messaging out there. So
I think
And
you have,
then-
I don't want to
and
call
then
it a niche, but I
and then
think
I got-
you,
yeah, well, then I got a wife and 2 kids. So so yes, so very busy on top of that. But yeah.
I was gonna say, like, I'm not gonna say like I'm not a fan of like what people call like the traditional definition of like craft distilleries, right? But I don't think, off the top of my head, I have not had a bad product out of your distillery. So it and we have local distilleries that have put out stuff that is very sketchy,
Subpar.
mediocre, yeah, like subpar.
Yeah.
So I think what you guys are doing is right, and that's a hard balance, right? Like, because if you don't have like the facilities and stuff to crank out 10,000 cases,
Yeah.
like how do you balance that all out? I think you guys do a great job. So
Thanks, man. I mean, it really is a balance. I mean, everything, life is a balance, right? Everything. But with us, you know, we when we built Riverfront, it was a pretty huge undertaking for us. And we and for us, I mean, and now we're filling those shoes, and you know, filling the and we're just we're staying on task. We're filling those shoes. We're staying on task. We don't do anything but Chattanooga whiskey. We have probably every week or two, we have somebody reach out to ask us to contract distill for them. But we don't do it. We don't make anything but Chattanooga whiskey, and our staff is like insanely passionate about. I mean, everybody's wearing a Chattanooga whiskey shirt every day because they want to, not because they have to. And that's a big. I don't know. I wish I could blast that message out there, but hopefully it just shows itself in the product, and I think it does.
well, I don't have a shirt,
Well, you know
But
what?
I mean, for 2 years I've been playing it. When my wife and I have like talked about coming down to Chatta and like doing whatever, but we
Come
just
on down, man. What's that drive?
5 hours, something like that.
It's five from Cincy.
I'm only like 25-30 minutes north of Cincy, so
Oh, dude, you don't have any excuses. That's an easy. I got to do that to get to the beach.
I, I did drive all the way out to Max Walton, West Virginia, and that was 5 hours, and then to and from back same day. Was not a big fan. I mean, we're working on it. We are, but like you said, kids and stuff, man, it's just
I'm just
Yeah,
gonna
fun adventure.
I'm just gonna guess that there's more to do with your wife and kids driving from Dayton, right? Or like not yeah, so from Dayton to Chattanooga, then from Dayton to West Virginia.
oh yeah, 1,000%.
You got Cincinnati, you got
Louisville.
well, not Lexington, really, right? Or
Oh yeah, Lexington. Yeah, yeah.
like Lexington, you got Knoxville, and then you get to Chattanooga. I mean, every hour you got something great to do, man. It's a great trip.
West Virginia, we had driving through Hocking Hills. That was it. That's all we got.
I've driven to Snowshoe, West Virginia, to go skiing from Chattanooga, which was about 8.5, 9 hours. It was horrible.
We're gonna make it down there probably next year. Finally.
Yeah,
I
we'll
mean,
take
it sounds
care of you.
embarrassing, but
Well, no, it's fine. I get it. I mean, I can't do anything right now with kids that won't stop playing sports.
yeah, if they could figure it out, man, and like play one sport, I'd be happy with it and do it together instead of like finally separating and playing two separate sports. I mean, that's why I just turned my camera up. My daughter came home to tell me about basketball practice, and I'm like, you
Well,
know,
let me
so-
tell you, man. I know when we were all growing up and we were playing sports, you played sports in your neighborhood and then you played sports with your school. But now with select sports, they play all over the country. So it's like we can't just I'm like, look, Chattanooga has 500,000 people in it. I guarantee you can find really great competition right here in town. But no, we got to go 4 hours north and east and west to go find people to play sports again. I don't get it. I don't understand it.
So
So
Chattanooga is about the same size as Dayton, then we have about 450, I think. Right? Yeah. So kid sports, man, it take up a ton of time, and I didn't realize, and it just came out of nowhere. So like one day it was like, I want to do this and I want to do that, and I'm like, oh, we'll figure it out. And then I'm like, because my wife works 4 10s, so I do all the running around 4 days a week. So, but
your kids play volleyball. They're gonna be tall.
yeah, so I'm 6'3", and I play beach volleyball still, or sand volleyball. It's not beach because we don't have a beach, but we play sand volleyball in an indoor location here locally. And when we need a girl sub on our co-ed team, one of my daughters will come out and play all the time.
Nice. Yeah,
Hopefully it doesn't get too crazy, because I know that court volleyball locally, man, is like, I mean, that is like a completely different sport. That is like ultra competitive, like
Yeah.
super expensive. So yeah.
my kids aren't short, but they will not be volleyball players. I can tell you that. So
I don't know what my kids are going to end up being right now.
yeah, likewise.
So does anybody else have any other questions? No? Dave, Paul, Jenny, Kevin, John, Brandon, Ryan, Alex?
One more. You have anything coming out of the experimental distillery that you may be ramping up to more production, or at least that you're
Man.
excited about?
Ramping up to more production. There's actually a lot of liqueurs that we've done, a handful of liqueurs that we've done that I would love to ramp up, like a coffee espresso or a mocha liqueur that we've done. And we don't do liqueurs that are low proof. It's all high proof. It's all bourbon. So it has to come from a bourbon foundation, meaning it can't be like White Dog. You know what I mean? It can't be like a quickly aged thing. So it is an investment. And all of our experimentals take a lot of ingredients. So, but I would love to scale up some of that stuff. Like a fig liqueur that we did that was just amazing. We have a cult following here in town on some of our liqueurs. I mean, they're 75 to 80 plus proof. So they're really high proof bourbon liqueurs. We have a gin that's releasing next week, a 6-month aged gin. And it is like an Old Tom gin. So it's like, it's that style. And obviously we're a whiskey company, but it's funny, you put Chattanooga whiskey on a gin. We've done it one time before. It was batch 13 and it sold out instantly. So, and it was a barrel aged gin in Tennessee. And it was a Tennessee high malt. It's actually our 91 recipe. That is a gin. That becomes a gin. We put a bunch of junipers in it. So that's coming out. I'm pretty excited about that.
So bourbon cream?
Yeah, I mean, like not in your classic form, but a bourbon liqueur that is a heavy coffee base is definitely something that I would like to scale. But probably not your classic bourbon cream. That's like 30 or 40 proof, I mean, what we do is like a 75, 80 proof bourbon liqueur. So.
So do we have
What's
any
that?
other questions?
I'm good.
No.
We'll say I've never had any of your guys' products before. I'm relatively new, but I don't typically like ryes, but I really, really like this rye. It's really good.
Awesome.
Your rye does not have a lot of spearmint, which I usually get in most ryes. A lot of spearmint. And yours does not have it, and it makes it very drinkable. So,
well, like I said, it's very different from every other rye out there. It's a 65% malted rye. I mean, they're not even on the same planet really when it comes to ryes. So, but it says rye on the front. It is a rye by definition. And I think a lot of people are surprised by it.
it's great. It's great.
I appreciate that. Awesome. I love it. It's been awesome hanging out with you guys tonight. I appreciate you taking the time to hang with me. I'm probably just gonna sit here on my porch and keep drinking. So I'll hang out as long as you guys want to.
I'm going to smoke a cigar.
That actually sounds nice. The first time my kids saw me smoking a cigar, they were like, "No, you're smoking. What's happening?"
Not the same as a cigarette.
I had the same thing happen to me, and they were like,
That's what I told them. I was like, "All right,
It-
listen, kids." I was like, "Cigars and cigarettes are different." No, you're just going into your lungs. You're dying. Yeah. Yeah.
You're not the same. I can't retrohale, so I just breathe in. I taste it. I smoke with Dave all the time, but and actually a few other people here. So, so for the official close, we'll just say appreciate it, Tim. Thanks for taking your time tonight to hang out with us. And as always, I love Chattanooga. So does our group, and I hope to see more of your products here in Ohio. So.
Thanks, Troy. Appreciate that, man. Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time to hang out with me. And we love Ohio. I hope to spend more time there, but we'll definitely be selling more product there. And please come down and hang out with us.
Hey, thanks.